The need to establish Tnuda came from an internal need because I was exposed to dance many years ago and I like dancing. Movement does a lot to me.
It comes from a place to challenge where I'm coming from, which is dance and performance, and somehow to find a different utility to this tool that I'm using for the most of my life. Tnuda is a group, it's a platform to bring together scientists and dancers and to try to find a way to create common language in order to transfer ideas, enriching our creativity. The meaning of the name Tnuda is a combination between Tnu'a, movement, and Mada, which is science.
How do you combine these two things? And the idea that came up about a year ago is to break up the group into smaller groups of a scientist and a dancer. They work on a specific question that interests the scientist. And now these couples give a lesson about a certain scientific question to the whole group. It could be many things, it could be in plants, it could be physics, biology. Lay aside a little bit the measurements and the machines and give some input to the other things that we have in our body and our mind. To give that also a place in this very exact science.
The question was, can we get inspiration or can we move according to a smell? We thought about it and we found out that it's very easy for us to get inspiration from other senses, but we thought that the sense of smell is pretty much neglected.
The class, but also the process before with Liron, really opened a whole new world relating to movement that I never experimented with before.
During the last 2 years, I'm thinking about it all the time, but I'm thinking about it from a very small angle. I realized that there is so much more than what I'm used to think of or to deal with every day inside my subject. So it was for me a new discovery. I could feel that something new is happening inside our brain.
The area that handling the information from the sense of smell and the area that is more active when I'm in movement suddenly started to talk.
This is very interesting to feel it. It's a feeling that you maybe experience when you learn something new in life, but this was very precise.
In the lab, I studied circadian rhythms. These are actually biological clocks and 24-hour cycles. He said something very trivial. Let's go to the end of the class, to the final result. What should be our aim and what is the final activity that we're doing? And from this, we went on to think, okay, so how do we build up to that point? What do we need to supply the participants in order for us to ask our major question? That was a breakthrough in our process.
Lean on the knowledge that you have, but also trust each other that the class will go on the right path.
We were curious about the connection between breathing and movement.
We tried to see whether we can synchronize between people using their breathing only. We constructed this machine which enables us to record breathing for many people at the same time, and we put it on the screen like a graph. I think it was a breakthrough in a way that we had a tool we can use to answer the question we want to ask. This question is much bigger than we thought at the first place. It opened up to many very narrow questions.
The result was much more disorganized than we saw it in our mind. What really struck me was the seriousness in which they took it and how they were sticking to their position in the hierarchy.
This gap created something very interesting between the desire to keep the task and, on the other hand, the complex human being.
In the class, I saw there are similarities between how plants absorb light and how the people connect or feel the light as well. I think also we find a lot of similarities on our way in life.
At the end, when we arrive to our topic in Einat's research, we arrive to it very, very naturally.
It's a group and it's growing with time. We're getting closer together and it's really interesting, I think, both to experience it from the inside but also to sort of stand on the outside, find out the little thing, what this feeling of being a group as to being a collection of individuals, what's in there. How do we affect each other and how does the music and how do the lessons, how do different focuses cause these groups of people to behave in different ways? Here you're thinking with your body, you're moving.
One of the most interesting things in this dancing project is how do we go out of our natural patterns.
I really saw the potential in dance as a way to express anything, whether it is personal or it is a common ground. And I saw between all the groups, everybody had the same understanding that very deep emotional stress can be expressed. This could be really an important point.
In a way, it doesn't matter what we're doing. We started from a certain point and went out to other places.
I think that something about this group helps me to practice how to break the habits within the way I move or the way I think about movement, the way I observe movement. It also changed my physicality. It changed the coordination and the quality of my body. It changes the way I relate to space, what is nurturing the movement.
I think for me the most important step was the connection to Shani and like the process we've done together.
I see that we have so much more to go. I mean, the ideas for the future maybe will be to go deeper into the work we already did and develop more ideas.
The whole experience of building a class together on a specific thema that is also scientific thema was interesting for me. How can I put my knowledge of dance into what Rona offered?
This is something we achieved together, a certain virtue, how to think, each one in his own field.
Think of the two worlds of a scientist and a dancer that are so far, are so apart from each other. And when we started this, we didn't have that much excitement. There weren't many students that were interested. Today, we look 2 years back, there's a lot of excitement about this, but what do you do together? Like, what does science have to do with movement, and what does movement or dancing have to do with science? If I look today, currently, what it's doing to my science, a lot of things in my science, accepting a new angle of vision of how to look at that science. So, especially things that have to do with movement, because we know that the processes in our body, proteins, cells, parts of cells like mitochondria, energy, it's all about movement. And when you take these problems and try to look at it in a different perspective in terms of movement, you get a lot of new insights that you didn't have before.
We actually dance science.